Today's critique focuses on a highly passionate political commentary script that analyzes the polarized reactions from both the far left and far right regarding a recent coordinated military strike on Iran.
Right.
Relying on personal insults diminishes the persuasive power of the core argument.
Yeah, that definitely stood out to me right away.
Because when we look at the weakness, the text neutrally introduces this ad hominem language. It frequently targets detractors with phrases like smooth-brained or dim-witted.
Or saying someone is one brain cell short of a functioning brain.
Exactly. So a key theme running through this material seems to be targeting people personally rather than their arguments.
Is there a risk that focusing solely on insulting these figures might overlook the chance to actually defeat their ideas?
I think so. I mean, it conveys a lot of high passion and frustration, which is fine.
Sure, you want passion.
Right, but it ultimately undercuts the speaker's credibility. It creates this echo chamber effect.
Yeah, it really does.
And that risks alienating listeners who might otherwise be persuaded by the core message, but are just turned off by the aggressive name-calling.
It signals to the audience that the commentary is designed only for people who already agree.
Exactly. For listeners who are genuinely curious about the geopolitical realities of the strike, the insulting tone is just a massive turnoff.
So the suggestion here would be to elevate the rhetoric.
Yes. Shift the focus from attacking the individual's intelligence to methodically dismantling the logical inconsistencies in their stated position.
Taking the high road makes the argument sound so much more authoritative.
It makes it bulletproof. You aren't just a reactive commentator.
You're an analyst.
Right. So let's look at some concrete examples. In the text, the author explicitly calls out commentators like Jake Shields or Myron Gaines.
And refers to them as not too far off in the cognitive region?
Yeah, which is just an insult. Instead, the script could point out the profound irony of their specific political framework.
Like their America First stance?
Exactly. They promote an America First stance, yet they are aligning with a regime that has historically targeted American interests.
Exposing that contradiction is devastating to their argument.
It requires no insults, yet it entirely discredits their position.
It's a much more surgical strike.
And we see the same thing with the section analyzing the New York protest. The script directs the word smooth-brained.
But if you look at the actual clip being analyzed, she speaks about resisting a new Middle East.
Right, so replace the smooth-brained comments with a sharp analytical breakdown of why her claims directly contradict the desires of the actual Iranian people.
The people who are celebrating the regime's downfall.
Exactly. By contrasting her localized ideological protest in New York with the tangible on-the-ground celebrations of millions of Iranians, you expose her position as fundamentally disconnected.
Disconnected from the very people she claims to be championing.
You dismantle the ideology by holding it up to the light of reality.
By making these tonal shifts, the script maintains its passionate edge but directs it effectively.
The rapid context switching between personal anecdotes, social media reactions, and channel promotions fractures the narrative momentum.
It jumps around a lot.
It really does. Let's look closely at the section discussing the current flow of the material.
That's clearly laid out. I wonder, though, if we've considered restructuring this so the emotional beats hit harder.
We absolutely have to restructure, because right now, the weakness is the fragmented structure. It moves from the news of the strike straight into a highly emotional personal story about working in a Persian restaurant.
Which is a beautiful story, by the way.
It's an incredible anchor for the piece. It establishes the stake, but then it immediately pivots to analyzing social media.
It gives you whiplash.
And worse, it frequently interrupts the analysis with administrative plug, directing the audience to subscribe to the Jericho Generation channel.
Outlining the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday schedule.
Right in the middle of this deep geopolitical and emotional analysis, it makes it difficult for the audience to track the primary thesis.
And it deflates the emotional stakes the writer works so hard to build.
Placing administrative housekeeping right after a profound human moment is exactly what causes viewers to drop off.
So the suggestion is to reorganize the content into distinct thematic blocks.
Yeah, build a more cohesive and escalating argument, effectively saving all channel promotions and housekeeping for a dedicated segment at the end.
By corralling similar ideas into dedicated acts, the script can create a snowball effect.
Exactly. The logic and the emotion build upon each other without interruption.
Let's give some concrete examples of what that restructuring looks like.
Group the narrative into clear acts. Act 1 could be the news of the strike, combined with that personal Persian restaurant anecdote.
To establish the emotional stakes and the why.
Right. You want the audience fully immersed in that feeling of liberation and justice before you introduce the conflict. Do not interrupt this act.
Then Act 2 could consolidate all the woke right reactions.
Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields bring all of that into one cohesive takedown.
By keeping all these figures in the same block, you deconstruct that specific brand of hypocrisy without getting distracted.
And that sets up Act 3, which focuses entirely on the woke left reactions.
The New York protester and the casualty statistics.
Yes, address both distinct flavors of opposition thoroughly and systematically.
And then finally move all promotional material for the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shows to the very conclusion.
Ensuring the emotional climax of the script isn't diluted.
Because the script builds to this soaring point about fighting for freedom.
A freedom the Iranian, Venezuelan, and Cuban people desire. That is your climax. To interrupt that with a reminder about a Wednesday broadcast schedule completely ruins the impact.
Save the housekeeping for the outro.
It honors the weight of the subject matter and takes the listener on a deliberate journey.
That structural discipline actually leads perfectly into the final major issue we noticed.
Dismissing the opposition's claims without addressing their underlying arguments leaves a critical gap in the commentary's logical defense.
This is a really common trap in passionate writing.
It is. The weakness here is that the script brings up counterarguments, but mostly mocks them rather than disproving them.
Like the claim that this war has zero strategic benefit to the U.S.?
Exactly. The script just sarcastically references 1979 and brushes it off, or the protesters' claims of genocide.
The script asserts it's a lie, but it relies heavily on outrage.
As I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that the opposition's claims are so inherently ridiculous that they only warrant scorn.
That makes sense. But could the evidence also support a deeper dive? Building on that point, what if we looked at it from the perspective of actually arming the listener with facts?
Yes, because outrage is never a substitute for hard evidence. By not providing substantive geopolitical or strategic counterpoints, the script misses a golden opportunity to truly defeat the opposing narrative.
When you just mock a claim like zero strategic benefit, you leave a seed of doubt.
The listener might think, okay, the speaker is angry, but is there a strategic benefit?
And if you don't answer that, you leave your flank exposed.
So the suggestion is to employ the steel manning technique.
Briefly acknowledge the strongest version of the opponent's argument.
Before systematically dismantling it with factual strategic counter-evidence.
It shows you aren't afraid of the opposing viewpoint.
And that you have the objective facts required to crush it. Let's look at concrete examples of when citing the tweet that claims zero strategic benefit.
Instead of just sarcastically referencing 1979.
The script could explicitly detail how weakening the Iranian regime disrupts funding for proxy groups.
Groups like Hezbollah or Hamas.
Exactly. Groups that directly threaten U.S. assets, allies, and global shipping routes.
Which directly impacts the American economy.
By providing that specific reality, you completely obliterate the premise that the U.S. has no strategic interest.
And what about the protesters' claims of genocide?
Bolster the impressive casualty ratio argument. The script mentions a 1-to-1 ratio.
Which is strong, but it feels unmoored without context.
Right. So explicitly cite historical military precedents or quote recognized urban warfare experts. Explain that historical ratios are often 1-to-9 or 1-to-10.
So contrasting 1-to-1 against historical 1-to-10 adds immense authoritative weight.
It transforms the argument from "I'm angry that you're lying" to "here is the historical proof that your claim is mathematically inaccurate."
It creates an impenetrable defense.
It tells the listener that the speaker's passion is backed up by an unshakable foundation of knowledge.
That is how you win over the undecided listener.
And give your core audience the intellectual ammunition they need to defend the position themselves.
So to briefly recap the core takeaways of today's critique, first, elevating the rhetoric away from personal insults to strengthen credibility.
Second, adopting a thematic block structure to maintain narrative momentum. Act 1 for stakes, Act 2 for right-wing reactions, Act 3 for left-wing reactions, and saving promotions for the end.
And finally, steel manning the opposition's arguments to create a bulletproof defense with hard geopolitical facts and historical precedents.
These adjustments are highly actionable ways to maximize the impact of this passionate commentary. Restructuring the acts, replacing ad hominems with logical takedowns, and adding strategic facts will completely transform this piece.
We warmly invite the creator of this material to apply these structural and tonal edits.
And please submit your revised work back in for another round of feedback. We are always eager to see how a piece evolves.